Very special.
Thank you, everybody, for staying. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Since you wrote, directed, and produced it, did you ever see yourself acting in it as well? Like pulling a Woody Allen, for example?
No, if I looked like Woody Allen and I was a man, then maybe yes. But the problem with being a woman, the thing that comes with being a woman is that you have to go to a makeup trailer, you got to get your hair done, your makeup done. Mm-hmm. All that time would have been away from set, setting up shots, doing all the things. So it's just not practical. It's much harder as a woman to do that. And we had 20 days to shoot the film, and it was 105 degrees in Oklahoma. So, no, it would have been too much. Anybody else?
Did you practice before it, or how many other films you directed before?
I only directed a short, which I'm too embarrassed to show to anybody. It's just really not something that was 15 years ago. I wrote, directed it, I starred in it myself, which is, what I learned you just don't do. And then, actually, Sophia and I had another experience that we were going to do together, which was a movie that was going to have 3 actresses, 3 segments, and everybody was going to direct one another and then star in the other episode or whatever segment. But that didn't get off the ground. I adapted a novel that was supposed to be, that I was going to star in, and then somebody else was going to direct it. That didn't get off the ground. And I wrote way before that a screenplay that I got into AFI writing school, got accepted, except for I opted for the Bond movie to act in that instead. So there've just been a bunch of false starts, and this is finally the moment that it. Thank you.
Isn't there a movie called Bringing Up Baby?
Yes, there is. There certainly is. It's a very famous movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And movies from the 1930s were really big influences, I'm sure. And so Bringing Up Baby was, I just played around with the name. But I had Mila look at a lot of different movies from the 30s. And I guess the reason for my obsession with 30s movies is that they were, mostly female protagonists that were really strong and funny and beautiful and glamorous and dramatic and comedic and like everything in at once in a way that you just don't see it anymore. I feel that women have been dumbed down over the years in film, and so that was one of my inspirations. And the other one was films from the 70s, and so I kind of tried to marry the two, which is a very challenging thing to do because they're such different genre films, but I have a passion for both of them, so those were the influences behind it. Bringing Up Baby was definitely a movie. Not that there's any references. There are a lot of references to old 30s movies in this one, but that's actually not one. Just a name.
What did you enjoy the most?
About making the movie?
Working with Spencer.
Working with Spencer, of course. How can you not? Come on. How amazing is Spencer? But definitely, working with the actors, the writing process is such a lonely process that by the time you finally go into pre-production and you get to work with all these amazing people, like the ones sitting next to me, the ones we've introduced you to already before, then it's a beautiful collaboration, and everybody gets to weigh in and give their ideas and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very different. It goes from this really isolated process to all of a sudden you're with a lot of people, and then it goes into an isolated process again afterwards in the editing room. But I really enjoyed every step along the way, even the 105 degrees. Sophia, not so much.
I was pregnant.
Yeah, she was pregnant. That's right.
I actually have a question for Spencer, if you don't mind.
No, please.
Spencer, what was it like for you to be a part of this experience and working with such great actors? You being one of them, clearly, but.
I had a really great time. Actually, we were shooting, and almost at the end of it, Mila Jovovich, she gave me an iPad, And I was like playing that all the time. Oh my god, I love this. It's so much fun. And I had such a great time working with Famke. We went out to dinner like almost every night together. And she has a dog Licorice, and we would hang out and stuff. And we'd go into her hotel room and play with him and stuff. And he was like, he'd fly around on this disc. We'd like pick him up with it. It was so funny and shit.
But Spencer?
Yeah.
Have you been acting before, or is this your first movie or
Yeah, I've actually been acting before. Like, I've done a couple of TV shows and like movies and stuff. But yeah, this is like basically my big role.
Was it nice to play such a naughty boy?
Yeah, it actually was. I actually felt like I was a character.
He was typecast. Yes.
Yes, could you tell us a little bit about the casting of how it was on the process?
Yeah, Sophia can talk about that as well. We had Mila was one of the first ones to come on board, but that whole process becomes a real catch-22 because you can't get a star without the financing, you can't get the financing without the star. And so you have to lie a little bit on both ends. Like, oh yeah, you got your star, oh yeah, you got your money, whatever. And we try to juggle the two to get to that point. But then Bill is an old friend of Sophia's. And Marcia Cross and I actually went to acting classes together a long time ago.
But she asked us to be in it. She just
Yeah,
came
she
on,
really-
she read the script
Yeah.
and called us and said, I know you're offering this to someone else, but I want this. So,
Rory Cochran is one of my oldest friends. Who we did our first movie together, Fathers and Sons, about 18 years ago. So I wrote this for him, with him in mind. Not that he's anything like this, just because he's so great. And then
he came off a tape.
Spencer we
Audition
got.
tape.
I went to
He
a
came
house.
to my apartment and auditioned. Yeah, we had pictures sent to us.
Pictures,
We
yeah.
didn't have a
Pictures.
casting director in. We only had a local casting director in Oklahoma for our local cast, but for our 5 main leads, we cast it together. So Spencer, we just had people send us pictures and whatever, and I saw this picture and I thought, oh God, I think that's him. So I hope that, he can act. And so then he walked into the door with his father, John, who's sitting right there, without our lovely Phoenix. And so they knocked on the door and the door opens and I thought, oh my God, please open your mouth and be perfect because you're so perfect in everything that I wanted him to be. And then I sat opposite him in my kitchen and I read the part of Olive with him and I just knew right away that he was Bobby. I mean, there's no question about it. And then he was the first one that day, so I had to get through the day. All these other kids that I had to audition that I knew were never going to get the part. And so then I realized, because I've been acting for so long, that probably many times I've sat in front of a casting director or a director when they already knew somebody was supposed to get that part but me. I sat there and auditioned, so I know what it feels like. But yeah, I knew right away it was Spencer. It's perfect.
I also love the lady who plays detective.
Isn't she great?
Yeah,
She's so real.
I know, she's just local casting in Oklahoma, and they don't have a lot of jobs there, so they don't get much practice, but she's fantastic.
So real.
Yeah.
Great.
Can you say something about why did you kind of pick this white Ukrainian woman in Oklahoma?
Why did I pick the what?
White Ukrainian.
Oh,
I mean, you kind of introduced why you picked this woman.
but why a Ukrainian woman? Because Mila's Ukrainian.
I know.
So I figured it was easier to get her to play, where she actually comes from rather than make her Hispanic or something, which would have been challenging. But it mostly, it could have been anything. It really could be anything. It could be, it could be Dutch. It could be French. It could be whatever. But the part with the Ukrainian that really worked for me is that it's a poor country, and where Olive's supposed to come from a really poor background, so that her, having this bizarre version of the American dream that she's living of like trying to be glamorous, trying to be a movie star, and all of that really comes out of this need of trying to escape her past and trying to become something that she's not. And so I don't know that would have worked if it had been a French character or Italian maybe or something. I think the Ukrainian helped in this case, but it could have been something else too.
You don't usually get to ask someone what happened to the characters after the movie. I was wondering.
That's the sequel.
So, well, unless you're.
Well, Spencer's here and he's happy.
Well adjusted. I always imagined she was going to come back. I mean, you cannot take these two apart. They were meant to be together. She just had to.
Years.
Well, no, I don't. I hope it.
What would you like it to be?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Write it.
Did you know that it was going to have that kind of an ending with some hope involved?
The ending actually was different. It stopped before at the end when she says goodbye, and Sophia read the script and she said, absolutely not. That's way too depressing. Can't happen. So that's when I actually always thought, because I had this book that I'd made, this director's book that had photographs of all the, how everything was supposed to look and ideas for, wardrobe or production design or whatever it was. And so the last photograph was a photograph of a road in the way that we see her walk down the road. And so I always had this idea that she was, she was strong and she was going to try to change and become a better person, and this road was very symbolic to me. And so I thought that said enough, but then I'm very European, I guess. And so, and Sophia was too until recently when she became an American and she went to the other side. So I think she had a really good point, is that you just have to explain that more, and it had to be a little bit more, I guess, be in keeping with, and I don't want to speak for Sophia anymore, but so together we kind of came up with it had to be something else, and then I wrote this part.
No, I think a lot of responses were just, and then what? This is so sad. A lot of mothers, had this, like, you can't leave your child. It just doesn't happen. So it was just to give something so that there's some hope. And I think you did that in a very beautiful and subtle way, because she could still not come back.
Of course,
if she
yeah.
wanted,